Hello, hello, my friend. Welcome to this podcast episode number 3 out of season 2. I am so thrilled. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you. I'm so excited to have you here. Now, if you're tuning in live, yay! If you're tuning on replay, yay! I am rooting for you. Hey, this is Monday. Let's make it count. Let's make it a great day. Let's make it a wonderful start. Let's set it ourselves on fire positively in a way that we can impact our own lives, we can change ourselves for better, and we can impact others and those around us. Hey, my name is Jana Masik, and I'm the host of this live broadcast, Powering Unique You. It's all about being here to help you become a better leader, to feel empowered, and let's change the world to be a better place. My friend, today I have a wonderful, wonderful guest. And you might want to tune in, take some notebook and take notes. I'm going to try to do it myself by watching replay and then take notes. But this gentleman is very special. And we're going to talk about a topic that I feel is necessary and important at these times. Let's admit, these times have been turbulent for each one of us. In a way, these times have been difficult. There's so much uncertainty. People still, 2 years into this, losing jobs right now. And there's just a lot of things in the air, a lot of fear or anxiety that no matter how we try, it affects us. It affects us. And let's change this tide and do not let the negativity that is outside of us affect us. So today, we want to talk about with this phenomenal guest, and I'm going to introduce in just a minute. We're going to talk about how we can gain the power, how we can see that we have power to remain healthy, to remain calm, and remain centered during the times that are turbulent or difficult and challenging around us. So how do we do that? And this is what our guest is going to share with us. He has 30 years of experience, and he's sought after spiritual teacher. He's personal and transformation coach. He's leading voice in the breathwork community. Okay, let's do this. And we're going to do it with him together. Let's take a deep breath. Release the tension. Yay, good. He's also an award-winning author. He has spoken in numerous universities and conferences and on a TedX stage. He has a book that is called Awakening the Soul of Power. Hey, everything that is power, we love, right? And he has really, even, I'm going to say, amazing gentleman. Let's bring him on. Without further ado, Christian de Huerta. Hello, Christian.
Hi, Jana. So happy to be here with you. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, so excited. We have people tuning in. Janet saying good morning. My friend, lovely Janet, good morning. So good to see you. Lena saying good morning. Nice to see you. Janet, hey, here's a great community. As you're tuning in, let us know. Ask questions. Christian would be happy, I'm sure, to answer your questions. So, Christian, today is all about how do we reclaim this power. And before we dive into a lot of things that I would love for you to unpack, please give us some definition of powers that we all have and how sometimes we probably unconsciously let them go, so to speak, or just give them away, so to speak. Could you give us some
Yeah.
insights on that?
Yeah. Thanks for such a great question. What I've realized, what I've discovered is that most of us have an ambivalent, and I would even say conflicted relationship to power. Like part of us wants it and part of us is afraid of it. And I think what we fear at the core of that fear is that if we really stepped into our power, if we really beed all of who we are, that other people wouldn't be able to handle it and that we might end up rejected and alone. And who wants that? I think we also fear that if we really used our power, that we might abuse it, that we might cause harm to others. And who wants to do that? And no wonder. All we got to do is turn on the news any given day or glance through the morning headlines to witness at least one abuse of power. And then combine that with the fact that we have been conditioned to believe that power is a bad thing. Power's negative. Power's, for bad people. And with quotes like "power corrupts," and who wants to be corrupted? And absolute power corrupts absolutely. But what they forgot to tell us or didn't tell us about that is that Lord Acton was speaking specifically about political power, not personal power. So
Mm-hmm.
when you add to that mix the fact that we've also been conditioned to be afraid of the emotions, somewhere along the way, someone decided that the emotions were weakness, and especially men, right?
Yes.
Which since we're young, it's like little boys don't cry. It's like, but there's so many faulty assumptions with that. But why don't little boy cry? Why don't little boys cry? Because only little girls do, or because that's weakness. It's like, wait a minute, that is so wrong. With To label the feminine weakness is like, it's just ridiculous. If you want to talk power, if you want to talk resilience, courage, let's talk about the power of creation that resides in a female body.
Yes.
Um, and then talk about the emotions being weakness. That's a whole other assumption. Like, the emotions aren't good, they're not bad, they're not strength, they're not weakness, they're energy. Like what used to be spiritual teaching, that everything is energy,
Mm-hmm.
now we know from quantum physics that it's true. That means that this chair that I'm sitting on, the body, the emotions, it's all energy, and we know energy cannot be destroyed. So
Yeah.
what happens when we stuff our emotions because we fear, um, we fear confrontation and conflict and all those things what we're talking about, is that they just don't go away. They get lodged in the tissues of the body, and they
Mm.
start causing harm. We either repress, and then the next unfortunate one rubs us the wrong way and we overreact and we cause harm, or those energies have to come out one way or the other, and they start seeping out and showing up as physical symptoms: heart attacks, ulcers, cancer. And so when you put all that stuff together, we we give what happens is that we give our power away.
Mm.
Our innate inherent power that nobody can give to us, nobody can take it away. We are the only ones who give it away. And the sad part, Jana, the most tragic part for me, is that we give it away for really lame reasons.
Oh,
That
wow.
we say yes when inside we feel no. So
Mm.
we override our preferences, our desires, our beliefs for an illusion of acceptance.
Wow.
We play small, like we stuff ourselves into small little packages so as to not rock the boat too much because of a fear of acceptance. So we settle for like a pseudo false
Oh,
sense of
my.
acceptance.
Christian, you're giving me shivers right now. I feel this is definitely, as you're coming in, tuning, watching, listening, take notes. There is so much to unpack in just this, like a couple minute things that you've given us. There's so much depth and wisdom. And I know the way you speak about these things is I sense it, that you've lived through those and that you've experienced those, and these are why they're the words that you say are so weighty, and deep. And I agree with you that we have the power, we have this energy within us. And
Yes.
I could sense that when I am, on a happy, outgoing, empowered way, my energy is vibrating. My energy is, joyful. You get in a room, you don't have to even say a word sometimes, right? You sense
That's
the
right.
energy, what
That's
the
right.
people, what mood is in there, what's going on in there. And imagine a couple is sitting there and they just had a fight. You walk into that room, you're like, oh,
Yeah.
you don't say a word, but you feel it. So
You
I
feel it.
agree with you. And this is a deep point on why do we give our power away in trading it for acceptance and playing small. I would love to hear you unpacking that, because I feel unconsciously, and let us know if you reflect to that and agree, but unconsciously we do give our power away. We do play small very often. And give us an insight why, and how can we turn that tide? Maybe give us a little bit of revelation. How do we turn that tide around?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I don't do it anymore, but boy, have I given my power away countless times throughout my life. Of course, I've said yes when inside I felt no, for to appease somebody or to not rock the boat. I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. And I really appreciate that you picked up on that the authenticity of what I say, because you're absolutely right. Everything that I talk about, that I teach, I practice myself. And I'm a really unlikely person to be talking about power and to be talking about what it means to live heroically in the 21st century. I was like, my whole adolescence was one long depression, with suicidal fantasies. So I know self doubt. I know self doubt intimately. I know self hatred, even. And these days, so flash forward to today, like no matter what happens in my life, no matter the details, the circumstances, a relationship works out or it doesn't. A project succeeds or it fails, in quotes. Never, ever do I question my sense of self anymore. Like that is established and it's unshakable. And so I know that what I'm talking about, that there is a way that we can step into our power that is a match for who we are. There's a way that we can step into our power in a way that's not about fear, control, manipulation, force. So some of the many ways that we tend to associate negatively with power,
Yeah.
that there's a way that we can step into power without the need to push anybody down or step on them
Mm-hmm.
in order for us to prop ourselves up and feel powerful.
Yes, this is really good. And I agree with you that a lot of people, and I reflect to what you're saying about getting more power, and I feel it's that correlation of outward power equal that control, so to speak.
Yeah.
That transpires so much in the corporate world, I
Yes.
feel. And now looking back at my personal experiences in the corporate world, that people almost have to stump over themselves sometimes to prove to others and themselves that they hold that, so to speak, power over you or the team or the project. And that is a pitiful situation to observe. And in the other way, how I experience that is as a parent. We have
Yes.
this, and I don't know if you've experienced that. Let us share with us if you experience that, if you have children. But you have this sense of, I have a power, I'm a parent, I'm in control, right? You kind of do as I say or else. And that is also a beautiful situation to be. And I'm learning, and that's why I feel it's very selfish. This episode is selfish, one of those selfish episodes where I'm tapping into your mind for myself, and I'm also bringing tagging in community with me. You learn as you go that it is not efficient. It's miserable to be in that kind of a control, powerful, self-inflicted pedestal, so to speak.
Yes. Yes.
And you do
Absolutely.
more harm than good to yourself and to others. There,
Exactly.
the power that we, and I believe you're putting it so beautifully, we're talking about is here that innate power of connection building, that innate power. And that's what the topic of our episode, how to feel centered, how to feel calm, how to know that you are in control of your life. You may not have full control over circumstances or people around you. In fact, we rarely do, but you're
Right.
in control of who you are. You are
Correct.
centered, and you're ready to build meaningful, powerful connections in a way then that open up something beautiful in people, that then they will say, wow, I do want to go along with you. And then, and I'm still learning that with my kids. How do I build that connection with them where I don't have to force things on them? I had the quick, real life situation this morning with my son, my middle boy. He just refused to go to school. He said, I don't want to go to school. Don't make me. I don't want it. He went and hide in the corner, and I just had to pray. I just say, Lord, help me. How do I manage through this? It's a tough situation. So please tell us, Christian, how do we, and I know we kind of have to stay away from that pedestal. Sometimes when we are in the negative emotions, we jump on it unconsciously, but we have to stay away from the pedestal. And how do we generate that way of being empowered? Don't saying yes to when we know we want to say no inside. Give us some practical tips, please.
Yeah, so one of the first steps, and by the way, I love how you connected it to leadership in the workplace in a beautiful and profound way, because you're right. The old way of leadership is like the more patriarchal, hierarchical, my way or the highway, and you're going to do as I say or be
Or
gone,
else.
or else,
Yes.
right? Or where the power that we're talking about is more power with rather than power over. And
Yes.
the more recent leadership studies are more about that, where rather than leading by command, it's the more effective leadership is by leading by example and by team building and by
Mm-hmm.
evoking the best out of everybody. So
Yes.
the whole concept about the servant leader. um, but anyway, how do we begin to do this? And one of the first steps is realizing that there are different kinds of power, and that's what we get confused about this. So I talk about worldly power or ego power, which is what you're talking about as the pedestal, placing ourselves up on a pedestal, and we get off on this power trip, and it's about command and control. And so, so how do we tend to identify people with power, right? We tend to think people who are rich, people who are famous, people who are high up on a hierarchy of whether it's a corporate ladder or some religious organization or any kind of organization. But the thing about all those expressions of power, because they're outside of us, they're fickle, right?
Yes.
They're here today, they can be gone tomorrow. As
Yes.
many people discovered through the pandemic, jobs that they'd had for years or decades, even poof, gone, right?
Disappearing.
And so many people suffered through that because their identity was connected to that.
Yes.
So in a way, it's a blessing, by the way, that for those of us who went through that experience, to be forced to re-identify and to begin to identify internally.
Yes.
So that internal power, which I call soulful power, you can call it spiritual power, you can call it authentic power, whatever you want to call it. It's a power that's inside each and every one of us. And what we were saying before, nobody can give it to us, nobody can
Mm-hmm.
take it away. And whereas worldly power is kind of self-aggrandizing, it's always trying to blow itself up and seem bigger than it is so that it can exert power over others and have this illusion of being bigger and more powerful than anybody else. It also has an agenda, so it's always trying to get something for itself.
Yes.
In contrast, that innate power, the spiritual power, the authentic power, is humble. Like it doesn't need to prove anything to anybody, and it's always about service, about making a difference. And it knows, I mean, when we're coming from that place, we know who we are, and we don't need to show it to anybody, we don't need to prove it to anybody. We know that it's that sense of internal power that you were referencing before. It's like we meet somebody who's coming from that place, and you just feel it, like you feel that authentic power. And so I think of, for example, a Gandhi or a Gandalf, if you're into the Lord of the Rings, in their simple monastic robes, their sandaled feet, you would never know how much power they hold until it's necessary. And then watch out, get out of the way. Gandhi brought the British empire to its knees when it was at its highest point in terms of global reach without ever landing a single punch or shooting a single gun. Talk about power.
Yes. Yes. Those, yes, I think you gave us a wonderful picture, wonderful painting of the differences. And I agree that, and let us know if you agree, as you're tuning in, that it is just obvious, right? That the power people that esteem a lot, it may not be, as valuable because it's not self-centered. Now, share with us, please, on how do we discover and I think hold on to that inner soulful, as you call it, power. How do we become more centered? And this is
Yes.
one of the things. How do we become more calm internally? Because I feel, and also from my experience, that the more outward you are, the more of your desire to be outward, so to speak, focused, the less personal power you have, because you're kind of projecting it outside. But the more you're projecting internally, the more you gain that personal power. It's somewhat of a confidence, but it's not in a boastful way confidence. Maybe give us a little bit
Right.
of your insight on that point.
Yes, of course. But let me answer your other question that I just realized I didn't answer. How do we apply this to parenting? Because one of the important things to realize that this is not black and white. It's not like a binary, like that one is all bad and one is all good. Like there are times to use worldly power, and parenting, I think, is one of those situations. For example, you have a kid about to run out into a busy street. it's like, no, right? And you grab them by the hand and you kind of pull them so that they get it. So that's power over, and you're definitely being directive, but it's for their own good. It's not because we're feeding our own egos because of that. So it depends on where we're coming from. Or for example, say we're standing in front of a meeting, an auditorium filled with hundreds of people, and the fire alarm goes off. It's not a time to say, okay, you wonderful, beautiful souls, how many of you exquisite beings, light beings, heart beings think we should use that exit? Raise your hand. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. How many of you think we should use that exit? No, right? It's like, go, right? There are times when it's appropriate to just be in that authoritative, directive power. But it's the difference is where we're coming from. We're not feeding off of that. We're actually doing that in service, so that the kid
Yes.
doesn't get into trouble and run into the middle of the street, or eat too much sugar, or not want to go to school. Right? It's because of that service, because it's for their own good, not because we're like getting off on like exerting our power over
It's
them.
good.
Oh, you gotta go to school. You're gonna go to school today, or else, because I'm the boss.
No, this is good segue. Yes, and thank you for unpacking that. I think it is important to know that yes, we do have the authority over certain things that are given to us, and even if we flip back for a second to the corporate world, the managers are managers. They have responsibility. If you're in a director role, you have a responsibility. If you're a VP or CEO, you have a greater responsibility. You have the authority given to you with that responsibility. It is a matter of whether you're abusing that power or not, right? And I believe that when you're coming from grounded, centered power internally and bringing it into that authority, it actually becomes more powerful. It actually ties in together and gives you that perspective and opportunity to connect with people on a deeper level, where they realize, yes, you do have power. Outwardly, you do have external authority. It's like the police, right? They wear the vest, and you say, yes, they have the authority, they have the power to control the rules and the situation. However, it ties into who you are. I feel is important, not to lose that. Just what you do is defining you. Again, coming back to that, you mentioned where we marry what we do with who we are, and that I feel is somewhat of a definition here that gives a little bit of a glimpse into that.
Yeah, the police example is a little bit charged in our days, but it's a
I
good
agree
example
with you.
too.
It's like I have to think about examples nowadays.
No, but it's good, because we know there are really good cops that are
Yes.
really come from the heart, and they're about taking care of people. We read about them all the time,
Yes.
and we do have examples of abuse of police power, and
Yes.
like of putting abusing power by putting somebody on the ground and putting our knee to their neck in order to keep them
And
down
and I agree.
unnecessarily. That's an abuse of power,
I agree. And I feel we can see that in any and every streams or professions, right?
for
I,
sure.
I feel that it has been polarized over the period of time. But if you look at any and every profession, I feel there's individual. Yes, there's some things that are maybe correlated, but it up to a person. Ultimately, it's up to a person whether he or she uses that power for
Exactly.
the good that power is given to be meant for, or whether he or she abuses it. So
Exactly.
yeah, I feel it's our own responsibility, and that's where I like that you're coming from, that nobody can take it away from you. You are the one to give it away. You are the
Exactly.
one to make responsibility. And with this in mind, this whole concept of this broadcast, powering unique you, it is you that are powering unique you. I'm not powering you. Nobody's powering you, really. Nobody can empower you the way you can empower yourself. You can learn tips and tools and experiences and wisdom, and you can learn from others how other people practice and gain to the point and come to the point where they feel more empowered, and they grow toward that empowerment. I feel it's a process, right? I know you've been doing this work for 30 years, Christian,
Yeah.
and yes, it's your responsibility. It's our responsibility. One person holds that power for himself or herself. So I love this conversation. Molly joined in as well. Hello, Molly from Jacksonville, my neighbor. So good to see you. If you have any questions for Christians, please let us know. And Christian, this is really, really good and deep conversation. So give us a little bit of practical steps, perhaps, on how do we feel more centered?
Yeah.
There's a turbulent times, there's difficult times right now. I feel everybody's impacted in a way. So how do we stay centered, stay calm, stay, in a place where we find, grounded, find ourselves grounded to reach the next goal of who we
Beautiful.
want to become and reach the next goal of where we want to go?
Beautiful. One is mindset, and the other one is a practical practice that we'll get into. So the mindset one you kind of alluded to, which is that one of the things we know about life is that there are very few things that we can control. Like, one thing that we can count on is that life is going to continue throwing curveballs our way.
Yes,
Like,
that's true.
who could would it's maybe 5 people in the whole 7.5 billion of us could see the global pandemic coming, right? Maybe 100, who knows? But not many of us. Most of us by far didn't see that coming. So, and also we know there's illnesses, accidents, uh, catastrophes that happen in the world that we can do nothing about. The environmental crisis, all these factors, companies opening up, closing their doors. There's nothing we can do about those. So it's easy to feel disempowered, to feel like we're
Yes.
just being buffeted by life and that we're out of control, and that we're just in the hands of other people who have sometimes even less of a clue,
Yeah.
than we do. But here's the shift in mindset. Like, no matter what happened in our past, over which we also have no control,
Mm-hmm.
um, no matter what happens going forward in our lives, we always get to choose how we are, how we show up in response to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that simple reframe changes everything. It pops us out of the victim mode, out of the victim mindset. Because
Yes.
that's we have this victim relationship to life. If only mom had been this way, or dad hadn't done that, or the teacher or the minister or society or sexism or racism or homophobia. Not to deny that anything happened, that crap happened to most of us that should have never happened, and not to deny that the system is set up unfairly. At this point in our evolution, those things are realities, and we don't have to give our power away to them. So no matter what happened, no matter what happens, we always get to choose how we show up in response. That alone is completely empowering. And
Yes.
and here's the best example of the like, I can't think of a better example. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist, spent years in concentration camps,
Yes.
lost everything. They took everything away from him. Not
Yes.
only his practice, but his degree that meant nothing, his properties, his collections of art, his whole family, including his
Mm-hmm.
pregnant wife, gone. Right, and so being in that most inhuman of settings that we can't even imagine, most of us, no matter how many books we read and how many movies we watch about it, like he as a psychiatrist, he started observing people and see why some people seem to survive and others
Yes.
didn't. And the more he looked at that, the more he realized that it had nothing to do with intelligence or education or beauty or brawn, physical strength, or socioeconomic status, or where people came from. None of that mattered in there. In that sense, it was a great equalizer. What mattered, what seemed to make a difference, the people that seemed to survive, were those who had a sense of meaning, a sense of
Yes.
purpose. So
Yes.
he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Um, and so that's why it's so important for all of us to get clear about why we're here, and
Mm-hmm.
what feeds us at the deepest level, at the mission level, at the soul level. And so that we stop giving our power away in that way for that illusion of security of a biweekly paycheck. Illusion of security, because as we have seen, these companies could go belly up any given day. An illusion of security, because the entire global economic system is made up. We used to think it was paper. It's not even that. It's just ones and zeros up on an imaginary cloud somewhere. It's like, is that what we're going to give our power to? Is that what we're going to place our trust on? Like, I'm not. But anyway, so once so Viktor Frankl was able to say, like in that most inhuman of settings, that they could take everything away from him except for one thing: the ability to choose how he would respond, how he
Yes.
would be in response. It's like, wow. And not to minimize anybody's trauma, but if he can do it there, certainly we can do it in our lives.
Yes. Well, this is beautiful and very awakening in a way. And thank you for bringing this story. I've read the book of Victor. Actually, how I came across that book is through reading the book of Eva Edith, The Choice. And if
Mm,
you have not read that book, get it. It really have changed my life. I've just galloped, like swallowed her writing. And she's also been in that camp and she survived. And actually, the writings of Victor helped her to heal and to accept and to
mm,
forgive and actually write her story. It is a beautiful, amazing story of the woman that is a warrior, and she's still alive. I hope to this day. I met her here in Jacksonville in one of the conferences that we had for youth, women youth, and I was just fascinated by this woman, Eva Edith, The Choice. Amazing. It is our choice, right? It is that power of choosing every day when we wake up. It's our power to choose every moment, right? What are we generating within us? What response we're giving to, those we love, or to those we are in charge with, or to those that we work with, or to those that we don't know perhaps and we're just meeting them for the first time. It is the mindset, and it is that innate strength that we have the choice, and
yeah.
we need to exercise that choice, and make good choices, right?
Yes.
To
Yeah.
make the choices that will empower us and that will help empower others. And I love that you touched on the meaning. I think that is very important too, because sometimes we just handle life. We just go, 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 go. And I think if nothing else but this, turbulent times have stopped us on that track, many people on that track, and say, wait a minute, how have I lived my life? What
Yes.
did I give? What did I give my energy to? What did I give my power to? And is this how I want to live going forward? Maybe I have only today, and
Yeah.
this is another framework that you can look at. What if it's today is your last day? And
Yeah.
I've heard about that, and I'm thinking about it sometimes. What if today is my last day? What would mean for me? What would things mean for me? Would I leave this day as if it is my last day in the same way? Definitely not, right? It shifts that perspective, it shifts that mentality, it strengthens your priorities to the right focus where they need to be. And I feel that in itself can
Sure.
make a huge difference in your life.
Sure. The other practical thing that we were talking about, like how do we maintain center in these times of chaos and uncertainty?
Yes.
So for us Floridians, I'm in Miami, based in Miami for the last 10 years, and have roots here. My family's here. So for us, the image or the metaphor or the eye of the storm is very, very vivid,
Real.
right? So it's very real. But if we brought that, applied that to our lives, right? So we stand in the center. We allow all the drama of life, like, right, all the circumstances. We allow all the people's judgments, expectations, demands, all the stuff that they're going to project onto us. We just allow that. We don't have to engage. We don't have to react. We don't have to defend. Like, we stand in our soulful power without needing to prove anything to anybody. We know who we are, right? And so that's what it means to be the eye of the storm, right? And of course, if something is having, like, impacting our lives in a real way, of course we intervene, and we set boundaries, and we set limits, and we say no. We learn how to say no. That's all part of this power process of empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
One technique that is invaluable is learning to use the breath consciously, right? That's one of the
Mm.
ways that you can maintain center. There are swamis in India that have that much control over their bodies that they can tell the heart to slow down, and the heart slows down. Some of them can even mimic states that are like hard to differentiate from death, so that they can relax that profoundly. Most of us aren't there yet, and we'll probably never get to that level. And anybody can slow down the breath. Anybody can slow down the breath, right? All it takes is a little bit of discipline and making the choice. What happens when we slow down the breath, right? So we stop, we pause, rather than engaging that do that you were talking about, and that reacting to everything in life. Pause, take a breath, take a few deep breaths, right? When we slow down the breath and we allow it to deepen, the heart has no choice. The heart has to slow down. It has no choice. And so when the heart slows down after a couple of minutes, the whole body begins to relax. The nervous system begins to quiet down. And then we can come back to that place of center and clear thinking. Because we're in that do crazy reactive mode. It's like we're not even thinking clearly.
No.
We're not even present
Yes.
to
Yes.
ourselves.
This is great. I love this practical application, Christian. And this is so simple. As you're tuning in, it's like how simple it is. You don't need to have any tools. You don't need to be in any specific place. You are there. Your breath is there. Practice it. If nothing
That's it.
else,
That's all
take
you need.
a deep breath right now. Relax your shoulders. And I could say I've came across, and how I relate to that very much, I came across this technique that is called hyperpressive. And what it is, the technique is teaching people to breathe and engage. We have 3 levels that are kind of in the same way that breathing together pumps, so to speak, in our head, in our chest, in our bottom part, where we have the uterus here for women. So it helps you to equivalent all of them. So the whole body gets aligned when you deep breathing in and out. And I've been doing that, kind of playing, not really, I'm liking to get it more into that, but I'm kind of playing with that a little bit. And I could see that the more I breathe in the morning and let, the breath just go through me, I have more oxygen in my brain. I start thinking clearly. I'm just getting more vitalized. Our breath is way too shallow. And when we are in the stress, we're breathing very shallow. It's like, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to fight. Have you noticed when you're getting stressed out, you're like, so it's like we're running out of breath. And another beautiful, as you were describing, way to see yourself, how you can be centered. And it takes the willpower, it takes your decision and determination, is look at the, what is it called? The cog where the holds the wheel, right? The wheel spins around. It takes the car where it needs to go. But the cog, the middle part of it stays still. And it needs to stay still and attached in order for you to get to your destination. So you need to be that middle part of that wheel. Things may spin around. Things may be like that storm, go around you, whatnot. But you need to find your space, your center, through breathing, through calming down, whatever works for you, prayer, meditation, and find yourself in that spot where you are grounded and you say, I can do this. I'm safe. I'm well. I'm loved. I can get through this, and you can get through whatever life brings your way, and find yourself in that calm spot to be the eye of the storm. I love it, Christian. Before we close up, any departing words for our listeners, please?
Well, just a message of hope. Like no matter what happened in our pasts, no matter what obstacles we have allowed to hold us back. That there is a way to heal all that stuff, all that trauma. There's a way to overcome and to transcend anything that's happened in our past, and to step into our power in a way that is a match, that is congruent with who we are.
This is beautiful. There is hope, and you hold the key to open up. Thank you so much, Christian, for coming in today, sharing your wisdom, sharing your insights. And I know this has been built on years and years of experience for you. I really appreciate you sharing your story with us and your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much. And lots of breathing, by the way.
That's so
32
true.
years of breathing consciously, like doing breathing
That is
practices.
awesome. And that's an inspiration to me, I believe, to everybody. Thank you, Christian.
Life-changing. And thank you, Jana, for having me on the show. it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for having the show. I know that
Yeah.
many people's lives are touched and impacted by your choice
Thank you.
to do this.
Thank you. See you soon.
See you soon.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Whew. If you have not got a ton of notes, I've got mental notes. I do have to go and rewatch and write down. These are practical tips. These are real life experiences. I feel they're so valuable. They're simple, yet Christian shared with us valuable insights that can help us to feel centered. I think if nothing else, we need to learn how to be more centered. We need to learn how to be more calm, how to be more determined and stable in a way, and let all this chaos just pass by. And for me, quickly, it's maybe tuning out of social media for some time. The 3 months that I took off were phenomenal. So if you're feeling that you're too drawn by so many things on social media that is happening, let's do this. Let's just put it away and time ourselves how much we spend on it and what we're doing there. Whatever it may work for you, I hope that this episode have helped you in some way and have given you the tools that you will use to empower yourself. My friend, it's been a privilege here for you. I pray that this week is phenomenal. I pray that you are healthy, that you're well, and that you feel grounded and safe, and that you're growing in your personal empowerment. And until next time, I wish you well. Keep powering in your Q.